right, ladies and gentlemen, we got the patch notes for the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver twin update. This is going to be a mini update or sort of a maintenance update, and it's going to happen tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific time. So around 8 p.m. Pacific time, sometimes it's usually a little bit earlier, like I'd say half an hour earlier. This is 11 p.m. Eastern, so I would say around 10:30 Eastern tonight. You just close your game, reopen it, and then you're prompted to download the update. And the update is 2 new uniforms and 2 new tier 4s. And that's it. Yes, there's no content. Well, there's a little bit of, there's a new bingo, basically. But that's all. Anyways, let's get to talking about the uniforms, because this is what a lot of people are discussing vis-a-vis how powerful they look, on text and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously the proof is always going to be in the pudding. I've been wrong on both sides of over and underestimating characters based solely on patch notes. So first up, we got Quicksilver here. Uniform effect gives him attack speed and 20% chain hit. That's a 5% increase, up from 15 on his old uniform. So very, very little. His ultimate ability seems to be getting a massive change. It was it was original Sprint, and then it got changed to Water Bomb Rush on his seasonal uniform. And now it's being changed to Sonic After Images. Now, the effect is pretty much the same. I'm looking at it here. It's the effect that it does is pretty much the same. But because the text and the name of the skill is changing, it sounds like the animation of the skill is changing. But who knows? There could be a lot of overlap between the images there. We'll have to wait and see. His Tier 2 passive, 45% guaranteed dodge, 50% ignore dodge, and then a 40-35 on the skill damage bonus damage is almost identical to what it is now. They're only giving him a 5% increase in skill damage, so very, very little. Unstoppable momentum is still just a 70% chance to penetrate, but they added a new line of text with super armor and 30% all defense, so that is nice. He does get that as a brand new effect. Now, the rest of his skills are pretty straightforward. He's got low cooldown. He doesn't have a lot of effects on skills, but he does have 5 seconds of invincibility on Resonance Phenomenon. He keeps his Ignore iframe on his 4th skill, which is really nice. And it also has a 30% heal. It removes all debuffs. It cleanses him for 5 seconds, and it gives him a 50-50 all attack, all defense buff. So that's a very nice skill, Speed Shockwave. Very, very nice. That could make him relevant for PvP. I don't know if that's enough to make him actually viable in PvP, like really, really good, consistent. And then his 5th skill gives him increased dodge and accumulation, which is not new. He used to have it on his 3rd skill. Now he has it on his 5th skill. But yeah, so not too much, honestly, for Quicksilver. It looks like just incremental changes, but the proof is going to be, I think, in the skills. And then we get Wanda's new uniform. She remains a hero. She remains universal, so no surprises there. She's got Chaos Magic and Fast Movement as her abilities, so basically exactly the same. As far as her uniform goes, it's giving her a 25% Ignore Dodge, 35% Mind Damage, and 30% Damage Reduction. This is almost identical. Again, only one of the stats is increased by 5%, which is the Mind Damage. It's going from 30 to 35%, so she's getting a very minor buff, but nonetheless a buff there. Her Tier 3 skill, which Reality Collapse, gets nothing. So a lot of people have complained about this. The giant meatballs on her original Tier 3 skill don't seem to be changing. We'll have to wait and see. Her original Tier 2 passive, Controlled Chaos, is now being changed to Fatal Curse, but it is very similar with one major line change. So the 60% chance to penetrate is exactly the same, and the 40-40 skill damage bonus damage is the same, but now she also gets 25% guaranteed crit rate. So this is a brand new line of text for her, 25% guaranteed crit rate. Now that, to me, indicates that she is going to be a replacement, or at least a competitor, for Captain Marvel. Because this is a PvE ability, and they've already buffed up her damage a little bit here, and now they're giving her, a lot of consistency with a Rage CTP, right? Which is what guaranteed crit rate does. So I think that's what they're positioning her as, rather than as a PvP character, or rather than something else. And then her other passive here, which was a 25-25 attack defense buff, is now a 30-30 defense attack defense buff and 10% chain hit. So she is actually getting quite a few new abilities. She's getting 10% chain hit, just like a flat buff that she never had, 25% guaranteed crit rate that she never had, and then an extra 5% mind damage and 5% attack defense on her passives. So yeah, I would say these are a little bit more noticeable. Again, not game-changing, not like earth-shattering new effects, but not bad either. As far as the rest of her kit goes, there's a small upgrade to her accumulation. It's really small. We usually don't see accumulation this small anymore, but don't worry, Scarlet Witch does hit really hard despite not having large numbers to accompany her. This is a accumulation with a 0.5% increase, which seems very low, but the key point I want to focus on here is the cooldown time of only 12 seconds. So this is arguably one of the biggest problems with Scarlet Witch, much like Thor, but even worse, is that her skills had really long cooldowns with her old uniform. So her first, like from before, right? Her first skill had a 7-second cooldown, but then her second skill had a 20-second cooldown because they wanted to limit how much accumulation she got. And then her third skill had 15 seconds, then 14, and then 18. Now, if you look at the numbers, right, from 7, 20, 14, 15, 18, we're looking at 10, 12, 14, 15, 15. So much, much better. No skill is over 15 seconds cooldown, and no skill is anywhere near, you know, a 9 or a 10-second cooldown when you apply maximum skill cooldown. That's really good. It's going to make her way smoother to play. In my opinion, I think she's going to play a lot like her father, Magneto, which I'm very excited for because I love playing him in ABX ABL. He's super easy to play. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. She does get an increase in the accumulation, the 0.4 to 0.5, which is technically a 20% increase. But the more important part is that now you'll be able to spam this skill every 6 seconds. That's much more important than the fact that, you know, it's only being increased slightly. Because, again, being able to cast it more consistently, right? With her old uniform, the buff lasted 7 seconds, but you could only cast it every 10 seconds. So for 30% of the fight, you would have no accumulation. Now, it's a 7-second buff that you can cast every 6 seconds, so you're going to have the accumulation buff up all the time, which is fantastic. Right, the rest of her kit here, she gets 35% mind damage on her third skill. She gets a 5-second immunity here with burn and paralysis. And then she gets, on her fifth skill, a 20% heal with 7 seconds of invincibility. And, you know, paralysis, fracture, this sort of like ABX, ABL abilities. So, essentially, yeah, the same sort of buffs. They just move other stuff around. Like, the 20% HP heal used to be on her third skill. Now it's on her fifth skill. The 30% mind damage buff used to be on her fifth skill. Now it's on her third skill, and they bumped it up from 30% to 35%, so it's a slightly longer one. But it's also on a shorter cooldown, so you can also maintain it more. So I think that, like, I know it seems like I'm splitting hairs here with some of these buffs. Oh, it's 5% here, it's 3 seconds here and there. But I think that matters. I think when you take the totality of the changes to her kit, I think she's going to be a big threat for PvE content. And it's going to be interesting to see how much better she is than Captain Marvel. She may require tier 4 in order to really compete, but I am happy with these changes. I do think that they're good. They're incremental, but these are also very popular characters, so they're probably not done with these characters for the rest of the game's, you know, existence. And then we get their tier 4s. So I think they both have strong tier 4s. They're both different, and they're both effects that we haven't seen recently in other characters, which is nice. Quicksilver gets the Black Widow treatment, where he gets attack. He gets 45% attack for 7 seconds when you pop his tier 4, and then he gets to dodge 30 hits, regardless of ignore dodge. So he just clean dodges 30 hits, and he increases his damage dealt by 60% for 7 seconds while dodging. So very powerful effect, useful for PvE. I would say most useful for PvP. This could make him a PvP threat, especially when you combine it with his artifact, as you'll see in a second here. But you're going to need like a max build, I think, right? I think he'll be a better version, a more consistent version of Black Widow, who is almost relevant in PvP, I would say. And then Scarlet Witch, similar to Luna, she gets the increased basic damage by 60%. It's a little bit lower number. And it decreases by 6% every second for 10 seconds until it's 0. But she also gets increased active buff effect by 20% for 10 seconds. Now, again, that's important because remember what we just talked about with Wanda is they shortened the cooldown on all of her skills that gave her buffs, like the 35% mind damage, like the accumulation, etc. And they added new buffs as well. All of those are going to get buffed. An active buff effect is the same thing that you have on characters like Captain Marvel and Rogue on their passive, but she's getting it on her tier 4 skill. But guess what other active buffs it applies to? It applies to CTP procs, rage procs, etc. all of that is going to get buffed for 10 seconds when she pops her tier 4. That's quite good, right? That's quite good, in my opinion. And then we have Quicksilver's new artifact. It's a 20% chance to dodge. It's the same as Spider-Man. It's the same as Black Widow, Echo, etc. This is quite strong for PvP, as we know. It needs tier 4 to really shine because you get that additional 0.5%, which if you have about 3,500 instinct and you multiply that by 0.005, you get an extra 17.5. So with a 6-star artifact and a tier 4 Quicksilver, you're looking at almost a 40% chance to just dodge everything. And then that stacks with his 45% guaranteed dodge rate, and then that stacks with his tier 4 when you pop it. He could be a massive headache in PvP. Could be. I kind of hope that he is. Yeah, and then we get some game error fixes, just mostly text-based stuff. They did finally address the bug on stage 12.3 of Dispatch. So for everybody that was commenting and stuff like that on Dispatch and the bug there, that has been fixed. And yeah, that's basically it. The last thing I want to talk about here before we wrap up the video is the bingo. So they did announce the bingo. I talked about it briefly in another video on the Thanos Vibs website where they data mined it, but now it is official. It'll be landing tonight with the update, and it'll be available for just under a week. And this one, like we talked about, is different, where all of the rewards here on the board are tier 3 and tier 4 materials, and then the first 4 stages of the bingo, when you complete it, give you a cache of tier 4 materials. So you can see the cost of items here. We'll talk about that in just a second. You can see the line rewards here, and then you can see the chest rewards here. It's all just tier 4 materials like Life Seed, Carbonadium, and Soul of the Faltine. And then step 5 is a random Brilliant, which we talked about. And it says here there's only 10 CTPs in the Brilliant chest. So, you know, you kind of have a 50% chance of getting a good one, 50% chance of getting a bad one. But what I want to point out here, because I think a lot of people are confused about the bingo, if you look at the price of things, very few items. First of all, there's no item that's 300 crystals. Everything is 260, I believe, or 275 or less. So the price of the items is actually much lower, and the number of items that exist at a very, very low price, like 50 crystals here, 50 crystals there, there's more of those low cost ones, right? 110, 110. And so you can actually complete this bingo board, these bingo boards, for much fewer crystals. Now, I know a lot of people are exhausted on crystals, so they're not even going to look at this. But again, I did the math, and I think it's a very competitive amount of rewards. I don't think this is a ripoff. I don't think this is a scam. I know the rewards are a lot different, so they don't seem appealing, especially on the bingo boards themselves. But if you do the math on it, and it sort of lines up, hopefully if I didn't make a mistake on the math, you spend about 10,000 crystals in total to do all 5 boards. It's about 2,000 crystals per board if you're disciplined and you don't buy anything over 200 crystals. And then for those 10,000 crystals, you get enough materials for a regular cost tier 4 character without a discount, and you get a random Brilliant CTP. In my opinion, those are really good, right? A tier 4 and a Brilliant CTP for 10,000 crystals. I think those are great rewards. I think that's very competitive. If that was a sale in the shop, would I buy it? Absolutely. Really quickly, we're going to do a simulation. This is the new bingo. We're just going to cycle through. We're going to reset the shop until we see stuff that is 100 and less than 150 crystals, basically. So anything less than 150 crystals, we're going to buy it. And this is, again, just the same strategy as before, except we are just lowering our limit. And then you will see here, oh, that's perfect. You will see here that you can actually get through the board very, very cheaply. So we skip anything that's over 200. You could probably buy this one here for 200, which is 4 million gold. I think it's really nice. But I can understand some people wouldn't want to do that. That's 190 there. That's 110. 190. I'm going to skip the 190, to be honest. 110 here. Okay. 110 here. Okay. 110 here and 110 here. There you go. So we got a little bit unlucky with the boards, because you can see there we went from 4 lines to 6 lines. We got unlucky, basically. But there you go. You completed the whole thing in just over 2,000 crystals. And if I hadn't have bought that 4 million gold for 200 crystals, if I'd skipped that, right, we would have been even closer to 2,000. So this is where I get the numbers from, where it's roughly 10,000 crystals. and you complete all 5 boards, right? And in this one, actually, although we got unlucky spending 375 crystals more than we wanted to, we did hit the 2 big rewards here, which is the Carbonadium and the Soul of the Falcon, and we actually got the Life Seed as well. The tier 3 materials aren't as important, to be honest. But yeah, this is where I get the numbers from, and you can see it's only 6.5 hours taken in the shops. That's absolutely doable, even if you have a busy schedule. You know, as long as you can check the game now and then, you should be able to complete it, because it's a 7-day event and there's only 5 boards this time instead of 6. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the patch notes. Are you excited for Wanda and Quicksilver tonight? Regardless of whether you are, stop by the live stream. It's going to be an absolute hoot. The live streams are always popping. We're going to be here live on YouTube at about 10:30 p.m. whenever the servers go up and we get this new content. And who knows, maybe you'll see the world first double tier 4 if we manage to pop them both at the same time. Anyways, thanks so much for watching the video. Smash the like button. See you tonight, and take care.